We hope you can join us this Wednesday as we take a deeper dive into managing Parkinson's symptoms, a look at surgical options. So as part of PD Health at Home, this Wellness Wednesday, we will be talking about surgical options. We will hear about how Parkinson's symptoms may change over time and explore how different surgical options may help some people manage their PD symptoms. You can learn more and register for our PD Health at Home programs at parkinson.org/PD Health. Lastly, if you are new to Parkinson's or are embracing a change in your journey, please do not hesitate to reach out to us. We have a comprehensive website that addresses everything related to Parkinson's at parkinson.org, or please feel free to call our helpline, either in English or Spanish, at 1-800-4PD-INFO, or send them an email at helpline@parkinson.org. So for today's mindfulness session, we are welcoming Dr. Catalina McInerney to guide us through a mindful awareness of our thoughts. So Delia, if you could go ahead and share the video, we'll get started.
Hi, everyone. Welcome and thank you for attending this session. I am Dr. Catalina McInerney. I am a neuropsychologist at the University of Miami with the Division of Neuropsychology and Cognitive Neuroscience. I am so happy to be here today. Please excuse my kind of gray background. I'm tucked away in this little hotel in Peru, and so grateful to be here. If there's any of you here that come from Peru or are in Peru right now, hi from your neck of the woods. I'm here doing a little bit of research on Parkinson's disease and Alzheimer's related dementias. And also I'm having the opportunity to do mindfulness in this beautiful, beautiful country. And I'm glad that I'm able to share in a little bit of that experience with you today. So what I am going to do, the plan for my session today is to talk a little bit about thoughts and how we handle thoughts, how they affect our mood, how they affect our physical well-being, and do a little bit of an exercise, of a mindfulness exercise that will help alleviate some of the pressure that we put on ourselves through the thoughts that our own brains generate. Thank you so much for the Parkinson's Foundation for having me here. This Mindfulness Mondays sessions, I think they're fantastic. And I am so happy to be a tiny little part of it. So thank you all for being here, for participating, and I hope we have some room for discussion in future meetings as well. So I was talking about thoughts. So, we all have thoughts every day of our life. What we don't realize is how many thoughts go through our brains. So on any given day, we have millions of thoughts that come through our brains, some that we pay attention to, some that we don't. And we are taught from a very early age to trust those thoughts, to believe those thoughts. But, it turns out that just because we have a thought, it doesn't mean that it's true. Sometimes we sort of create movies, we create stories in our mind that can cause a lot of stress, that can cause a lot of anxiety, that can really impact our mood. Notice how this is kind of a very typical example, but imagine you walk out your front door and you wave to your neighbor and your neighbor just doesn't even wave back. You can have several thoughts related to that, right? You can think, what a jerk my neighbor is. You can think, he must hate me. He must think I'm a terrible person because he won't even say hi to me. Those thoughts would lead you then to have a little bit maybe of resentment, maybe of a negative mood associated with your neighbor, associated with that morning, with your present experience, with how you might experience your neighborhood for the coming days, weeks, even years, right? If you let that thought kind of perpetuate, you can have the exact same experience. You can have you walk out the door, you wave to your neighbor doesn't wave back. Different thoughts can be, oh, he didn't even see me. He might be in a rush today. Um, he might be having a bad day. So those thoughts that are a little bit more kind toward that other neighbor, right? Excusing maybe a little bit of his behavior or her behavior, are going to have a different effect on your mood that day. They're going to have a different effect on how you relate to that neighbor, even from far away. It might just be an experience that's a nothing experience rather than something that is harmful for you. It might turn into something where you go and you ask your neighbor, do you need help? You know, what's going on or whatever, and you might form a friendship. So it's depending on the different thoughts that you have, your mood is going to be different, your actions are going to be different, and you're definitely going to feel it in your body in a little bit of a different way. Because everything that we think, everything that we do is reflected in our bodies in one way or another. What I see that happens a lot with people with Parkinson's disease and really people with any sort of ailment, whether it's, you know, a headache that we have, whether it's a sprained joint, or very, very serious medical conditions, you know, we tend to think a lot about how our bodies are acting. And sometimes our thoughts go a little bit, get a little creative. And so, you know, an example that I often hear is I'm having pain associated with the condition, or say my tremors are getting a little bit worse. And if I'm having a particular symptom today, say a tremor, say today I'm having bad tremor. Instead of the thought being right now I'm having bad tremor, the thought can be sometimes this is getting worse. This is never ever going to get better. I am never going to be able to live a happy life because of this. How am I going to even relate to other people? You know, I'm going to have to increase my medication, maybe even change doctors. And your wheel sort of starts spinning. So we call those, there's different kinds of what we call thought distortions. One of those is catastrophizing. We have one thing, say one pain in a different part of our body, and all of a sudden we think, oh, now this area of my body is affected. Now it's all downhill from here. So you catastrophize, you make the problem that you have bigger and bigger and bigger in your head without knowing really the reality of it. And so a lot of what I'm talking about here is, yes, we have that thought, and those thoughts are very valid. You know, I'm having a tremor right now. That is an experience that I'm having right now in this moment. But if you can limit it to just that experience rather than creating sort of a tragic movie in your head about it, your mood is going to be different. The way that you approach it with your medications, for example, not giving up on your medications, not giving up on your treatment, but rather saying, right now is a tough time. I'm going to take care of myself, care of my body, and being able to sort of live with that symptom instead of letting that symptom and the thoughts associated with that symptom rule your life for the entire day, even the entire week, even sort of take over for some of us. Um, so the point is to pay attention to the thoughts that we're having, acknowledge, and there's, we do a lot of therapy. Sometimes we spend weeks and weeks with folks in therapy, kind of training ourselves to notice the thoughts that we're having, recognize what kind of thoughts there are, and then coming up with sort of alternative thoughts, what kind of behaviors might be more healthy, what kind of thoughts might be more healthy, and that in turn helps mood. So, this is a very, very brief explanation of all this. If you are struggling with this, if you notice that this is a place where you usually go, I highly recommend you see or seek help from what we call health psychologist. These are psychologists that are very in tune with medical conditions. It doesn't mean that you have a mental health condition per se. It just means that you're struggling with the medical condition, with a very difficult situation in this moment. So seeking help from a health psychologist can be incredibly helpful if this is something that you think you're struggling with. But in general, the idea is to pay attention to our thoughts, be mindful of the thoughts that we're having, and choose thoughts that are aligned with who we are, that are aligned with our deepest sort of hopes for ourselves, with really who we are as people, with what we value as people, and choosing thoughts that are going to be healthy for us, right? So if we have to choose between thinking my neighbor is a jerk or my neighbor is having a tough day today, choose the one that you don't know which one it's true. So maybe just say my neighbor didn't wave at me today. It sort of is what it is, right? There's no you don't need to believe every thought that comes into your mind, or choose the most positive one if you need to choose one or the other. All right. So with that, I am sort of switching gears to doing a mindfulness exercise that is precisely based on being mindful of our thoughts, being mindful of the thoughts that come through our brains, and being able to let go of those, because that is a struggle that we sometimes have. We kind of cling on to thoughts. So being able to let go of those thoughts is exactly what this exercise is about. There's many different types of exercises that target this particular sort of process, but this is one that I like. It's called the leaves on a stream exercise, or thoughts on leaves exercise. If you are new to mindfulness exercises, to the breathing exercises, know that it's okay for your brain to wander. It will wander. All of our brains wander every once in a while, sometimes more than others. Sometimes there's distractions in the environment. If you get distracted by your own thoughts, by symptoms that you're having, by somebody that walks in the door, appreciate that moment of mindfulness. There's a moment of awareness, and just come back to the exercise. Try to keep your back straight. That's something that I always say, because it allows for more capacity of air. It really allows your lungs to expand more as you breathe and get more out of this exercise. You can breathe either through your nose or your mouth. I like breathing kind of in a circular pattern, where I breathe in through my nose and then out through my mouth. I recommend, if possible, breathing in through your nose, because your body has a filtration system that way. But if for whatever reason it's uncomfortable for you to breathe through your nose at this time, breathing through your mouth is just okay as well. Okay, so let's start with this exercise. Get comfortable in your seat. This exercise should take about 15 minutes or so. Okay. So sit back in your chair. Find yourself comfortable in your chair. Keep your back upright and relaxed. Your feet resting gently on the floor. Make sure your arms are not crossed, your feet are not crossed. Your hands can rest on the table in front of you, your lap, the sides of your chair. Sometimes you can keep your eyes open for mindfulness. For this exercise, it might be better to close your eyes if you can. Let's begin by taking in a few deep breaths. Bring in your attention to the air as it passes in through your nose. Feeling your body as the air goes through your throat to your lungs. Feel your chest expanding, raising and falling with each breath. Noticing the sensation, how it feels now to be sitting in your chair or floor, wherever you're at. Notice the feeling in your feet, how your arms feel hanging from your shoulders, resting on your side. I'd like you now to begin to imagine that you are sitting by the bank of a stream, watching the water gently flow by. Imagining the feeling of the ground beneath you. Imagine the sound of the water as it flows past. Perhaps bringing to mind the way that the stream looks as you watch it. Notice the feeling of the air, of the temperature as you sit by the stream. Imagining now that there are leaves from trees gently falling on the stream. The leaves are of all different shapes, sizes, different colors, just floating along the stream. And just continue to watch the leaves as they float down the stream. Continuing to breathe at your own pace. Inhaling and exhaling. And as you continue to watch these leaves float on the stream, start to become aware of the thoughts that you're having. Perhaps the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations that you're having at this moment. And each time you notice a thought, a feeling, or a sensation, imagine placing it on a leaf and letting it float down the stream. Placing each of these on each leaf, regardless of whether the sensations, thoughts, or feelings are positive or negative, neutral, painful or pleasurable. Whatever you're feeling or thinking, place it on a leaf and let it float down the stream. Even if it is perhaps the most wonderful thought, even then, place it on a leaf and just let it float by. Continue breathing in and out and watching as your thoughts float down on the stream. You might even notice that the same thought comes up again and again. Each time, just place it again on a leaf and let it flow down the river, down the stream. If your thoughts stop or you start feeling more emptiness in your thoughts, just simply watch the stream. Inevitably, sooner or later, another thought or feeling will come up. Just put it down on the leaf and let it float down the stream. Always continuing to breathe in and out at your own pace. Deep breaths and noticing thoughts, feelings, placing them on leaves and watching as they float down the stream. Allow the stream to move at its own rate, perhaps noticing any urges that you have of wanting it to move slower or slower. Just notice the flow of the stream. How is that stream flowing? Smooth, rough, fast, slow. Listening to the sounds around you, the sounds of the stream. Even if you have any thoughts or feelings about this particular exercise, about distractions that are happening, simply take a couple of deep breaths and place those thoughts, those feelings, those sensations on the leaf and let it float down the stream. If you notice a leaf that gets stuck somewhere that simply can't float down, just observe it. Don't force it down the stream. Just notice that thought, that feeling. You might even notice yourself getting caught up in thoughts of boredom, impatience. Notice thoughts and say to yourself, here's a thought of boredom, here's a thought of frustration. Place that thought or even those words on a leaf and let it float by. Continuing to breathe in and out, watching as the thoughts flow down the stream, just observing each experience as it arises, with each one, placing it again on a stream and let it float down. It's normal to lose track of this exercise. It might happen again and again. When you notice losing track, being distracted, just take a deep breath and come back to your visualization of the stream, the leaves. And you can even put that experience on a leaf and let it flow by, flow down the stream. Continue breathing and noticing as those thoughts are flowing down the stream. Finally, allowing this image of the stream, of the leaves, wherever you are, to slowly dissolve and bring yourself back to the sensations in this chair, the floor, your room, returning your attention back to your breath. Once again, noticing the air as it passes in and out of your body. The body rising and falling with each breath. And after a few small, deep breaths, gently opening your eyes, noticing where you are, what you can hear, what you can feel in this moment. And bring back your attention to this room and to the rest of today's session. Okay, well, I hope you enjoyed this exercise. I hope that you can take it with you and practice it anytime. And for the rest of today's session, if you have any questions, Crista will answer those for you. And I thank you so much for being here today and for joining in this exercise. Hope wherever you are being able to experience a lot of mindfulness and being in the present moment. That is so important. Thank you all for being here. Have a great day. Bye.
Thank you, everyone, and thank you to Dr. McInerney. How do we all feel today? Do we feel a lot better? Well, thank you to everyone that joined us today on this Monday. I hope you have a wonderful week, and we hope we will see you next week. Take care.